to start off with, I would like to introduce John Luong, who is the Mass Care Chief. He's joining us from Los Angeles tonight. He has been a DCS volunteer for 15 years and is currently the volunteer partner to the Regional Disaster Office. He is a Mass Care Chief and has deployed to about 40 deployments for the Red Cross in local and national operations. So he has a wealth of experience. And tonight he will be he'll be introducing our speakers, and also we're going to start off with a slide in the beginning. So turning it over to you, John.
So just want to say aloha to everyone. I see a lot of people on here that I've interacted with and finally met some in person when I was in Oahu several weeks ago, and here in Los Angeles. So it's been a busy disaster season. Whoever knew that we're going to have wildfires, in the middle of winter in January. So as you guys have probably heard, about a month ago, these wildfires had hit Los Angeles, and it became the most expensive disaster in our history, with the amount of property that was burned, unfortunately. So we were able to deploy about 22 people, actually 24, I should say. We just deployed 2 people today, virtually, one in mental health and one in recovery. So we want to give a shout out to all the volunteers that have deployed out to Los Angeles. So some of these people were either deployed in person to Los Angeles, and some of them were actually able to stay home and work virtually. So we have both hybrid opportunities. So we want to say a big mahalo to all these people that really had stepped up to the plate. There were a lot of volunteers that I had talked to in Los Angeles and who deployed out to Maui for the wildfires. So they said it was very humbling for Hawaii to send responders to their communities. So a big mahalo to these people that have literally dropped their lives at a moment's notice and deployed for a minimum of 14 days. That takes a lot for people to do that. So a big mahalo to them. And yeah, so if you ever see these people, you want to, give them a big pat on the back for helping, the community in need here in Los Angeles. I actually reside here in Los Angeles as well, so it's helping my community. So we're just going to go ahead and move on. Going to go ahead and introduce Deborah Nataro. So Deborah resides in Guam. She joined the Red Cross in 2019 when living in Japan, and while her husband was stationed there. She has volunteer positions with Service to the Armed Forces doing casework, Disaster Action Team, Disaster Spiritual Care, and she's a presenter. She continued to volunteer with the Red Cross when she moved to the Connecticut, Rhode Island region, and then recently moved to Guam, and is now focused on SAF, Service to the Armed Forces, the naval base there on Guam, and disaster spiritual care. She's actually currently deployed to Los Angeles virtually from Guam. So big shout out to her with the big time difference and kind of working those weird hours from Guam, helping support the Los Angeles operation. She's also deployed virtually to assist with the Maui fires, some spring tornado operations in the Midwest, and Typhoon Mawar. Her passion is really about disaster spiritual care. And now she's currently assigned to Operation Compassion, which, she'll give us more details about it. So Deborah, welcome. And I want to hear more about this Operation Compassion. Never heard about it. So looking forward to hearing this from you.
Okay. Just for an example, since John was in Los Angeles, as an example, hello, John. This is Deborah with the American Red Cross. Headquarters has asked us to reach out to all of our volunteers in the Los Angeles region who didn't have the opportunity to respond to safe and well messaging that went out. Just want to ask real quickly, one, are you safe and well? 2, have you been affected by the wildfires? And 3, do you have any immediate needs? If you do, please reach back to me. Or sometimes as Red Crossers, we forget that we can call 1-800-RED CROSS ourselves, which of course is 1-800-RED-CROSS, 733-2767. Also, as Red Crossers, sometimes helping our own communities can be a little extra stressful. American Red Cross does have peer-to-peer support. You can request either disaster mental health or disaster spiritual care by reaching back to your supervisor, your local chapter, via how I'm contacting you, or 1-800-RED-CROSS. Anyway, take care and hope that you're safe and well. Now just imagine saying that about 500 times a day, every day. We actually were part of a task force that was set up. There we have actually, think about this number, 14,000 Red Cross volunteers in just the LA region. Out of that messaging, unfortunately, it coincided with the phishing training that went out. So about 2,000 volunteers were not able, and employees weren't able to respond back. So we were able to triage those 2,000 people, Red Crossers, just to see if they were affected. Do they have any immediate needs? You know, truly, are they safe and well? And if you want to go to the next slide. In the region, about 11,000 homes were destroyed. And these are some of the stats from the tens of thousands of people who had to evacuate. And then with the task force, we were just a little part of it, but we actually contacted about 13,000 people. And we were able to help 177 fellow Red Crossers, giving resources for recovery. 52 people needed additional casework, including mental health or disaster spiritual care references, or disaster health services, actually. We had one Red Crosser that had asthma and was looking into seeing if we can get an air purifier for her and some masks due to the smoke. And then, unfortunately, 28 Red Crossers reported losing their homes in the fire, but the good news is we were able to support our own. And then, next slide. That was the first part of my deployment. And then we moved into the next phase, which is more of your traditional casework. So we have to wait until about 85% of the homes that were destroyed, which I think was 11,000, to have disaster assessments done. Next slide. So the next part of the deployment, and actually I just got off a phone call helping a client right before the today's brief. And it's very similar to what you have during disaster action team callouts. Yes. Yes. Okay, looks, oh, there we go. Someone had their phone on. So our team went from 15 people down to 10. 5 of our teammates were deployed to the 3 different National Transportation Safety Board aircraft incidents. So they were deployed there. So the 10 of us are working 800 cases for families who had major or destroyed homes. Because in California, their state put out ruling that you have to be from California, even a disaster, to do spiritual care, mental health or disaster health services. So the nurses and mental health, you have to be from California to help out. So we're doing some triage for the mental health so that we can kind of talk to people, hear their story, and then try to put priority for the mental health for people who need it immediately, and then send resources until they have time to get back to everybody else. Next slide. Just a little, this is one of the cards they hand out to DAT team members or people who work in shelters, just kind of know a little bit about disaster spiritual care. Basically, when these conditions apply, we talk to them, hear their story, try to help connect them to immediate needs first, and then help them process a little bit about what they're feeling, either emotionally or spiritually, about what's going on. We're really good at connecting people with resources that align with their faith. Let's say if someone happened to be Buddhist, while the Zhu Qi and VOAD is a Buddhist organization, and they help anyone with financial assistance during disasters. If you happen to come from a Buddhist faith, you might get the little extra spiritual care from their perspective. So we help people of all faiths or no faith connect with resources. And then especially if they lost items of a spiritual, sacred, or religious nature. We had one family where to them, they had their pets passed away. And then we were able to help them find ways to memorialize what was sacred to them. So that was a cool call we got to do. Next slide. I think I already answered these. We can go to the next one. Best memory about deploying. It's something what I like to call divine connections, or some people might call serendipity. I was able to connect with a client. She happened to be Korean, so English was a second language. And she initially didn't identify with any faith, but through talking with her, she realized that she comes from an Asian naturalism, which is close to Shinto. And we were able to help identify items that brought her peace and joy.
This call will be recorded.
And then at first, especially with the language difference, it was difficult for her to put words to emotions. And sometimes you're just trying to do tasks and you're like, you don't have time to just sit and think about how you're feeling. So there was a really good article one of her neighbors actually wrote, all the things that he felt, because his house was like the only one standing, and he had what's called survivor's grief. And I was able to share that wonderful article with her. Her family was one of those that did not lose their home because a bunch of neighbors banded together. So that story really speaks to her. She started expressing some needs that she was looking forward to. We were able to work through cultural differences. Really cute story. She had requested disaster mental health. And I asked if she was able to speak with Jim, her assigned caseworker. And she's like, no, but this guy, James, keeps calling me. And I had to explain in American culture, sometimes we have a formal name like James, and then we have a nickname that we go by like Jim. So she thought that was funny. She had a dream to take pottery classes, and her college was known for their pottery classes, and she could never get in the class because they were always full. And she had never heard of community centers. Sometimes there's adult education and things like art and pottery and music, and was able to connect her with that resource. Unfortunately, her community center had burned down, and the other one was used for disaster services. I was able to reach out to the local community centers in the county, and the one that she happened to be staying in is known for their pottery lessons, and was able to make a connection with the director there, and they're going to treat her as a resident with in-town resident fees. So that was something. I mean, you think it normally disaster spiritual care, but in reality, we all have a human spirit, and anything that brings joy we can help with. Another part of divine connection and serendipity was the disaster mental health person from Red Cross was actually the one who pioneered art therapy in that region. So the fact that she requested therapy that had pottery or art or music in it was a really neat connection. And as a result of the process of speaking to her over the week, she and her family got together, and for the first time they decided to really give back to their community, to reach out and volunteer and serve others. I did send her a Red Cross link on how to save how to sign up as a volunteer, but in fairness, because we're supposed to be impartial and neutral, I sent her a list of NVOADs in the area so she could pick and choose. Next slide. What I liked least about virtual deployments is being thousands of miles away. When the affected person, you can tell they're tearing up. And you know, if you were there in person, you could have given them a hug. Something that happened to click during a training session was normally if you're there in person, you'd hand them a tissue. So what I started doing with clients is saying, hey, I'm giving you a virtual tissue right now, or I'm giving you a virtual hug, and you can actually hear their emotional reaction as if you were there, which is pretty cool. Next slide. Do differently about deploying. Funny story, I would ask for a Red Cross issued cell phone, especially when texting, maybe 500 people in the LA region using my personal phone. And then I noticed the texts were starting to come back as blocked. I'm like, huh. And I'm using a voice over internet protocol phone, and it wouldn't go through. I couldn't leave a message, and it was bouncing out as blocked. Turned out they started to get tagged as spam. So thankfully, Red Cross IT was able to issue me a new phone number, and they made sure the caller ID said American Red Cross. And thankfully, my phone didn't officially get tagged as spam, so I was able to work with my cell phone internet provider. And now I know, do not use your personal cell phone to send out hundreds of texts on a deployment. Please go to your supervisor and get a cell phone issued to you. The other thing is a timer to remember to take breaks. I tended to work through lunch and didn't realize it till my husband came home from work and ate lunch and then left. And I'm like, that's probably not good for a relationship. It's probably good to take a break, spend time with family, and go right back to it. And as people who care for others, it's good to watch out for burnout or secondary trauma. And a good coping skill or resiliency skill is to make sure you do self-care. And we have wonderful people in our mental health Red Crossers who can teach you about that. I think I have one more slide. And thank you for the opportunity to share. And feel free to contact me via Teams if you have any questions.
Wow. Thank you, Deborah, for sharing that story. As you can see, some of the comments here, it's very powerful and very inspiring. And what a beautiful presentation. And a lot of us have forgotten that we have disaster spiritual care, and it's a very important component. We always think of, disaster mental health, but spiritual care is very, very important to a lot of us. So thank you for that. All right, so I just want to introduce our second person. Her name is Sarah Clifford. Sarah joined the Red Cross last year, and she's now serving as our regional disaster disability integration lead. She deployed in disability integration, or DI for short, for hurricanes Helene and Milton. And most recently, she just returned back from the Los Angeles wildfires. She's incredibly passionate about making sure that our clients with disabilities and neurodiversity are met with respect. By removing barriers and focusing on access and functional needs, we are supporting the autonomy for our clients as much as their disability will allow. And in doing so, empowering our clients to make choices that they feel that are right for them following a disaster. So let's go ahead and welcome Sarah. Sarah, do you want to come online and introduce yourself and kind of tell what your deployment was like in disability integration?
Thank you, John. Aloha, everyone. I did just return from Los Angeles this past month, and I'm excited to kind of teach all of you a little bit about our disability program. I'm going to turn my camera off while I'm speaking on the slideshow, and then I'll come back on at the end. So our program for disability integration, disaster disability integration, is actually nationwide. And we are currently building the program here in Hawaii and across the Pacific Islands region. Our goal and our vision is to meet the diverse needs of our clients with disabilities and to promote equitable access and dignity for our disaster cycle services clients. Our focus is on equity, access, and dignity. And what that means is we're wanting to make sure that our clients can maintain as much autonomy as possible and as much independence as possible, in spite of the fact that these disasters are going to impact them in a pretty tremendous way. We can go to the next slide. Thanks, Joy. As I mentioned, this is a national network. And to that point, one of the things that I think is really neat is that there are disability integration leads all across the country. And when we deploy to an area that we are not familiar with, those areas that have robust programs already in place, such as Florida and in Los Angeles, they already had just a tremendous amount of relationship with the resources available locally. So when DDI team members come from out of state, we are already plugged into a really large network that is there to help support our clients and help meet the needs of our clients. And we'd love to build that network here as well. We provide advocacy, outreach, and accommodations, coordination for our clients. And sometimes we work hand in hand with health services, disaster health services, to assist with making sure that we are allowing our clients to connect with them and let them know that that support is available for them when they are replacing durable medical equipment or machines or whatever might be needed for their disability through their insurance. We want to make sure that they're not falling through the cracks. And so we are able to kind of meet with clients and connect them with the resources that are necessary for them to have their needs met. We collaborate with community partners. An example of this is when we were in Florida. We covered all of the shelters in the entire state of Florida with our DDI team. And so we had an incredibly generous community partner that donated a tremendous amount of items, physical items, for us to hand out to our clients. And the partner focused on children with neurodiverse needs and neurodiversity. So we were able to hand out a lot of these items to our clients in the shelter, especially clients who were who had autism or ADHD, and it gave them resources to use in these shelters. We coordinated assist technology. Again, that's replacing medical equipment that's needed, and also for people who may be blind or deaf, assisting with translation technology and things that may have been impacted when they leave in a hurry. Sometimes they have to leave things behind, and so we try to make sure that they have what they need when they arrive at the shelter and when they're staying there. We can assist with resources and also with connecting them to the case managers when the case managers come on board, who can assist them in further gaining their independence as they exit the shelters. And we can assist with the practical application of ADA laws and principles. So we can go to the next slide. Thanks, Joy. During a disaster relief operation, one of the first things that we do is we arrive and we do a shelter survey, a site survey. So we go to all of the shelters that are open and we walk through with a checklist, and we are looking for ADA accommodations. And we are trying to make sure that we can do as much as possible in an emergency situation to make sure that the facilities are accessible to anyone who may be coming there, or to make sure that the resources that may be needed by clients are readily accessible if they are requested. We do advocacy and outreach to the Red Cross clients. So after we're done kind of going through all the site surveys and figuring out what might be needed, we kind of assess we assess the needs of the buildings and the facilities. So we are able to kind of look at the clients that are there, look at the population of the clients that are there, make sure that there are enough ADA facilities for the number of clients and the population of clients. Sometimes a facility starts out in really good shape and then it ends up being a very large shelter. And so we have to bring in additional portable units to support the needs that are there. We do advocacy and outreach with the Red Cross clients who have disabilities. So we look through Skya with the shelter staff. They look for the notes that they give us, and we reach out to these clients one-on-one, and we connect with them, and we go out to the shelters and meet with them in person if we can. And we just talk with them, and we introduce ourselves, tell them about our program, let them know if they have any needs, that we're there to support them. And if they have any needs at that time, we do everything that we can to try to make sure that those needs are met, or to connect them with the resources who can meet those needs. And then we also just do outreach where we will physically walk through the shelters or the resource centers and just talk to shelter staff, talk to other employees who may be working there, and collaborate with them to make sure that we're kind of catching anybody who might need assistance and that nobody's falling through the cracks. We also work with, as I mentioned earlier, working with organizations in the impacted area to make sure that we can quickly meet the needs of clients. An example of that would be in Florida. We worked in tandem with the disaster health services team. They were just completely overrun with jobs to do. And so we assisted with the durable medical equipment replacement, and we partnered with the local Center for Assisted Living, and we were able to email them directly. And the Center for Assisted Living, Independent Living, were able to replace a lot of the wheelchairs or walkers or rollators that had gotten damaged or left behind during the hurricane, during both hurricanes. And that was really rewarding every time that we knew something was getting delivered that gave our client independence. And we can go to the next slide. Something to think about if you are going through a shelter is just having an awareness about making sure that someone with a disability would be able to comfortably move through the area. These are just some examples here on the list. Also, another thing that I notice often is we often have tarps that are placed down to protect the floor or carpet in a lot of these shelters. And we have to make sure that those are always taped down so that they don't become a tripping hazard for our clients who have difficulty lifting their legs, or who may have a rollator or walker, and we don't want them tripping. So a person with a disability is somebody who has a physical and mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, has a history or a record of an impairment that's significant, or is perceived by others as having an impairment. And these people are all protected by the ADA. And the ADA has been in place for 50 years, and we are there to support their autonomy and independence. We ask people to keep in mind some guidelines when they're speaking with people with disabilities. We just want you to treat them with respect, like you would any other person that you're meeting. We don't want you to be condescending. We don't want you to show pity or feel sorry for them. We want you to treat them as a whole person who is strong and capable of overcoming very difficult things. And we want you to see them as someone who is strong. And even when you're providing support, we want you to be offering resources and allowing them to make the decisions that are best for them, rather than telling them what you think they need. Our goal is always to empower our clients in every way possible. So we want to make sure that we're doing that in the way that we speak with them and interact with them. And we no longer use the term special needs. It is okay to use the term disability. This is a video just about interacting with people with disabilities. We can put that in the link in the chat, and people can watch it later as they're able.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, was that the end of your presentation? I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, let's see, 32. Joy, do you want to show the video? Let's see. Oh, if we are showing the video,
Talk about
let's
the
see.
deployments if you want me to. It's up to you guys.
I think we have time to show the video
Okay,
if we
great.
can.
Heather, may I
Yes.
make a comment?
Sure.
Hi, Sarah. First off, thank you for everything you do. My name's Denise Cohen. I live on Maui. And I noticed this when I was doing some training on shelter hearing impaired. My
Yeah.
son is deaf. It's deaf or hard of hearing, and impairment is very offensive in the deaf culture. And so I just wanted to point that out because during the Maui wildfires, we have quite a deaf community here, and we were getting that quite a bit. And I was always correct. They probably thought I was the nag, but I just want to clarify that they really do not like being called impaired. They think we're signing impaired. So just a comment.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Denise. Thank you to both of our speakers, Sarah and Deborah. Deborah, if you want to come on camera. Oops, all this noise going on. We're going to open it up for questions and answers. If we have time, we'll show the video at the end. We'll just, I think we'll go through the Q&A first. So let's see. I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you do have a question, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you and you can ask your question. I thought I saw someone with their hand raised.
Hey, Heather, I wonder if Sarah wouldn't mind telling us what her favorite, her best memory is and what her challenge was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Sarah.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Yes.
Sure. So I think one of the most rewarding things for me in working with our DDI clients is I was very close with my mom's parents when I was a child, and my grandpa was a polio survivor. And he is the strongest person I know. And I was always really inspired by him, and getting to meet my clients and seeing how strong our clients are and how resilient and they're incredible, and getting to remind them that and getting to support them and giving them options and giving them a path forward is one of the most amazing things. I think we had a client, just as an example, in Tampa, in Florida, and she was blind, and she had memorized the floor layout of her entire home and lived independently as a result, and her home flooded, and she was in an unfamiliar place, and she was starting over. And as difficult as it is for all of our clients starting over, our DDI clients are facing additional hurdles, and whatever we can do to kind of close the gap for these clients just makes everything kind of worthwhile. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to meet so many amazing people who inspire me and walk beside them while they're on this journey. One of the difficult parts, I think, for me in the LA fires were the tremendous number of people that were in our Pasadena shelter. We had hundreds of people there, and we had some significant viral outbreaks that kind of passed through the area when you have that many people in a small space. So I would just recommend wearing masks if possible when going through these areas. It really makes a difference, because we had some of our DDI clients who were who were impacted. And we actually had a 101-year-old client of ours who ended up getting COVID in the shelter. And so I know that people who are able-bodied or don't deal with additional hurdles may think, well, I'll just kick it, I'll be over it next week, but it does impact our clients as well and DDI. And I just encourage people to wear masks if you're in an area where an outbreak is happening like that. It'll help protect our clients. And I think I always have more to learn. I think every time I go out on a deployment, I see something else or I think of something else. So I'm always open to hearing that, and we'll continue doing that going forward.
Thank you, Sarah. Deborah, would you have your hand raised? Would you like to come on camera?
No, actually, I have a DDI question for Sarah.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I have a good question. Are your services just for people in person, or if someone has a RC care case and they meet certain criteria that they might have like extensive medical issues, do we reach out to you as well?
Yeah, so it's not just in person. We have clients who we will often work hand in hand with disaster health services if it involves medical insurance or medical care, but we do help advocate for their needs to be met. And we actually get a lot of referrals from Skya, but also we get them from other employees at the shelter or county health workers or people who are just walking through the shelter. We get a lot of referrals from mental health and a lot of referrals from spiritual care as well. Like in Los Angeles, we had a client who was a child and they had autism and they were struggling to sleep because it was such a crowded environment. It was overwhelming, overstimulating. Our team was able to provide blue walls for this family, and we were able to kind of literally build cardboard walls with zip ties and create a private space for this client and their family, so that they were able to get sleep. And the clients had actually been working with mental health because their child had been exhibiting symptoms from the stress that they'd never exhibited before. And then we were kind of able to work hand in hand with mental health to meet the practical accommodations for this family. And it was able to kind of be resolved. So that was really rewarding too.
Thank you. That was awesome.
We did a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails for clients that we never actually met in person. And then we followed up to make a phone call to make sure equipment was received or resources were received. So we do that as well.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question for Deborah or Sarah? This is a good time. These are our experts here on their subjects and recent deployments. So if you're thinking of going on a deployment and have a question, this is your great opportunity to ask. No questions? All right. You guys did a great job presenting the information. Thank you so much for agreeing to be our speakers and for your service and deploying. I don't know if all of you know that Deborah actually lives in Guam and she's joining us here tonight. So, and she, so that's time difference there for her and also for John. John's in LA. So thank you to all of you for joining us. We have some time. We have a few announcements that we're going to share, but let me check in with Joy and see if we have time to show the video.
I think let's do the announcement, Heather. I'm having some technical stuff with the video, so maybe we can end with the video.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Great. I do also, before we go on to announcements, in the chat, there is some information from Mary Finley, who is she's our engagement and recruiting person for volunteer services. So if you're, let me just read what she wrote. She said, if you hear the presentations tonight and are moved to try something new or would like to chat with her to talk about different options, she sent a link in the chat to her calendar. She said there are over 300 Red Cross volunteer positions available. So great opportunity to learn about other things that you can do with the Red Cross. Okay, let's see. I'm looking at the chat. I don't see any questions. I'm going to turn it over now to Renise for some disaster services announcements. Is Renise here?
She is. She's just trying to find the unmute button. Oh. Oh, sorry. Here we go. Taloha, Hafade, and aloha from the DCS. So first of all, I just want to thank our volunteers, our Pacific Island volunteers, for sharing their humbling and inspiring stories. I did want to throw in there, Heather, what John failed to share with you folks is that while people were deployed to California, John, our host with the most, had been dining with them. He's been picking them up. He's been taking them out to dinners. He's been giving people, stranded volunteers, moving from one point to the other point, a ride. So yeah, he wouldn't have told you that. So I'm squealing on him. I'm totally squealing on him. So I just wanted to say, to extend our mahalo to our my volunteer partner and our volunteer for the Pacific Island region, John Luong, as well. I think there's a slide, Heather, with the dates. The only thing I wanted to share with TCS is that we have trainings scheduled for the month of February as well as for the month of March. And then just to kind of recap with our group, that we had a low pressure system storm that came through all the state of Hawaii. And we mobilized all of our volunteers on every single island. Kauai was not hit, surprisingly, with the storm being like closest to Kauai. Oahu was not impacted. Maui and our Big Island were impacted. So the Maui cohort was led by Cheryl Jarrell and Tyler Dahlgren at the EOC. Tyler's represented at the EOC. Cheryl just mobilized everything. And then on the Big Island, it was led by our DPM virtually, because he was here on this island as at our retreat. And so his volunteers on the Big Island mobilized. So in my perfect dream, this is how it's supposed to work. With or without staff present, the volunteers are mobilizing, the volunteers are running it, the volunteers are leading it, volunteers are guiding it, responding, supporting, and doing everything like we are supposed to be built. So I see my dream and my vision just coming true now, and I'm super happy. Wanted to share that with you folks because there was a lot of work involved. And in the absence of Chris being on the Big Island, it was led with his core volunteers, Peggy Beckett, Gilbert Aquino, John McCarthy, Laurie Scott, Alan Murray was on the Big Island running the IP planning. There's a lot of leaders on that Big Island that was helping. So just wanted to put that out there. I don't see the slide, so we will post the slide maybe later so everybody can get take a look at the dates. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, I was hoping that they could just see that while I was yakking. But
sorry, I had problems sharing.
No, that's okay. I did also want to share that in response to volunteer services sharing that one of the biggest or common responses that they had received from our volunteers was just not enough training. So I did want to put out there that our regional disaster training program lead, Nikki Davison, is the one that spearheads all of our training. And just for January, 129 trainees, 2 basic instructors were trained, She's building capacity. We are trying to put experienced instructors on each island to be able to build capacity, train the volunteers instead of having to wait for somebody to come over to train them. So Nikki's done a tremendous job of just constantly just getting in there and training. And this is for our whole region. We went to Saipan, American Samoa, and to we're heading over to Guam. We got interrupted with our Guam trip, but we're heading back over to Guam to finish our road trip of trainings and stuff. So Denise, I see your hand up.
I was just wondering, I saw the Disaster Health Service Fundamentals virtual on February 20th. Is that the same course that I'm teaching?
I believe that's your course.
It's on the 22nd.
Okay. We will make that correction.
Just so people don't try to show up on the 20th.
Yeah, then they're gonna show up twice. But that's a thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I copied and pasted from my trainer, and my trainer has all her dates, a jumble of dates in her head. So we given her lots of grace because she's been kicking butt and taking names, and this is a good easy fix. Thank you for the announcement. So everybody erase 20 from your head and put 22 in your head. Yeah, that's on the 22nd. We also just added on the 22nd a Kauai training for DA, DAT, and possible shelter with our government partners on the island of Kauai. So stay tuned for that as well. But lots of great movement in the DCS. And then sorry, it's not on the agenda, but I do want to make an announcement that Guam has hired officially a wonderful humanitarian guy from Cancer Society, and we poached him, and now he's coming over to Guam for our to be our community disaster program manager. His name is Ed Lee. We will make sure that you get to meet him. He hasn't started yet. He's going to start, but we will make sure that you get to meet him next month. And then we also made the job offer that was also accepted today to Miss Leilani Tuamoheloa as the CDPM for the American Samoa Island. So congratulations to you both. And that's all for the disaster services. Thanks, Heather. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Renise. Now I will turn over to Joy for some volunteer services announcements.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen again. All right, so just a few reminders and announcements, everybody. So we have a new volunteer ID verification that's going on. If you are a new volunteer, let's say you started your volunteer connection account around the end of October to like November, you would be getting notifications from my team, from our volunteer services team here in the region, to make an appointment to verify your ID. We want to make sure that your ID matches your profile on Volunteer Connection. This used to be done by nationals, so that's why this is only new volunteers who we're trying to reach. And prospective volunteers, the ones who just applied and don't have a position yet, are also getting this notification. If you don't get this by email, you can also try to find a shift on the shift tool, that changes every day. So try to find a convenient time to sign up. This is an essential step in your volunteer journey. So please make sure that you answer our call or email us when you'd like to schedule. It will take less than 5 minutes, I promise. And you need a virtual connect, you need a Microsoft Teams connection, or we can also arrange for you to come to your local office. We can arrange that on a special basis. So the second reminder I want to say is there's some new training that we'd like you to pay attention to, especially if you have a Red Cross email. So it's the FY25 Q3 Workplace Respect and Safety Program. So there's a couple of subparts to this. It's the first one is the Code of Business Ethics and Conduct. And the second part would be the data protection and security awareness. So to access these, you can go on Edge. I did put the link to OneSource because there's a OneSource homepage, a landing page. For those of you who are brand new, because I see some names here, OneSource is our intranet for everybody in our workforce, which is blended volunteer and employees. So please pay attention to that. If you didn't see it yet, I'll put it in the chat as well. Again, if you have a Red Cross account, Red Cross email account, you are required to take the data protection and security awareness. But I think you should take both. It's very interesting training, and how we fulfill our mission matters. So thank you, and we're counting on you to make sure we do things the right way. Okay, and the third one is I have some exciting news for the youth and young adults. Red Cross clubs, I see you here in this meeting. So if you are between the ages of 13 to 24, and you have to be a Red Cross volunteer, of course, there's an exciting new video challenge that National just launched. It's an Impact Starts Here video challenge. I'll put this link in the chat. You might have already found this on social media too. They're advertising it. And okay, so the Red Cross clubs, if you enter as a club and you win, the first prize is $750 for a club project. So please, try to enter this and make our region proud. And there's a second prize and there's 6 prizes total. So I'll put the link in the chat, and all the Red Cross clubs, please pay attention. You can enter as a club, and you can also enter as an individual Red Cross volunteer if you're 13 to 24. So if you want to brainstorm some ideas with the program committee, the youth program committee, we can do that. Although I think you can do this pretty much on your own, and much better maybe when you see all the details and the criteria. Last but not least, if you're celebrating your anniversary this month, that is your 1-year anniversary, or your 5-year anniversary, or your 20-year anniversary. We do have those longtime volunteers. You will be getting a reminder to please give us your feedback. We value what you think and what you would like us to note to make your volunteer experience better. So please check your emails, and please take a moment to give us some feedback and answer the survey. That is something we take a look at very closely. I think I got everything, and I will put the information in the chat so everybody can access the links. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. So the video that Sarah had, maybe we can just put the link to watch it, or do?
Oh, yeah, we only have 5 minutes, so I think I'm just going to put in the link because it's a YouTube video. That's about 4.5 minutes long. So I'll put it in the link in the chat, sorry. And then everybody can just watch it on their own.
Okay. But before we end tonight, I thought I would just, let's do a shout out for all the volunteers that are joining us now on this event. If you have deployed to a disaster response operation, please come on camera so we can recognize you. So anyone who has been on a DRO, please come on camera and we can see all of the volunteers who have been out there. I'm sure
there's even virtual, more. Everybody who's deployed, yes, virtual and in any role.
Anyone else? I know John has been on many. Let's see. Anyone else tonight been on a, oh, here they all are. Look at all of you. Great. All right. So we want to just give a great big mahalo thank you to all of you for your service and supporting the Red Cross mission, your dedication, your commitment. It takes a lot of time out of your personal lives to go and help on these responses. So thank you very much. And thank you again to our speakers and to John for tonight's presentations. And we hope to see you next month or at our next meet and greet. So be on the lookout for our next invite. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a good night.